Welcome back, guys. Episode 17 of the Modern Market Podcast. And we got a new angle this time. So it's going to be fun looking up there. But I hope you guys enjoy. So let's get into it. So I'm just going to go all 13 counties. I just wanted to be able to give you guys the most relevant data, whether you're in my area or anywhere in California. And it's very, very similar across many other states and the other people that watch in other states. So I figure that's a really good data pool to work with for now on. July to August, since we have a full month of August that we can report from, we are going from a for sale. So that means that that is our current amount of listings. We saw about a 2.7% increase in the for sale, and then sold increased about 3.3%. And then pended is about 9.6%. The demand is absorbing the supply, at least in August. I've got some interesting stuff for you guys for the month to date data. So what I have is from August 1st to August 11th. And then we have September 1st to September 11th, which is yesterday. So this is some interesting stuff. We'll see if it continues moving into the remaining part of the month, but it's very, very interesting. So there's some big differentials here. To start off, not too much here. For sale, there's actually just a decrease in listings at 0.5%, nothing major, but sold. This one's crazy. So from August 1st to August 11th, we saw 1,060 sold. And then from September 1st through September 11th, we had 637. And that's a 39.9% decrease in sold, or demand of buyers. Pended, very similar. We're seeing 1,023 pended from 8/1 to 8/11. And then we at September 1st to September 11th at 856, decrease of 16.3%. So we're seeing decreases in demand. Supply is staying pretty set, and I think there's a big reason for why that's happening. We'll see how it moves going into the remaining months, but I do think it's a very possibility that that trend's going to continue. And the reason why is because we saw a big uptick in rates, and we'll have to wait and see. However, there was a reduction in just overall demand. There was the Mortgage Bankers Association. We saw that there was we're at a 27-year low in mortgage applications, 27-year historical low in all applicants for new mortgages. That's a big deal. 27 years. That has to go back all the way to 1997. That is crazy. So that's the difference between now and '08 is the simple fact that they stimulated rates. They stimulated the economy by lowering rates. So lowering rates allows for more people to buy homes. And at the time, guess what? Home values decreased significantly because supply shot up after the whole '08 crisis. So people were able to buy cheap real estate. But this time around, it's just we have high rates with supply that's not crazy high. But again, we're starting to see some movement. We're starting to see excess savings starting to dwindle with consumers. Our unemployment rate is starting to get higher, regardless of what Bureau of Labor Statistics are saying. Unemployment is starting to rise a little bit. So things are starting to change a bit. So moving on to more of the mortgage side of things, we're looking at rates in the mid to high sevens for conventional. And that's like a prime borrower, 800 FICO. For FHA and VA, low sevens. So that's going to be, again, your good borrowers, good credit and minimum down payments. It's funny. Minimum down payments are actually yielding the net lower interest rates unless you're putting like over 25% down with a conventional loan. So keep that in mind when you're buying a home. 20% down is not going to give you the best rates. Actually, you're going to be getting a hit in pricing a little bit because that is the threshold to when mortgage insurance comes off. So lenders will bake in a little bit of a higher rate because they know they're not going to be getting that insurance from the mortgage insurance monthly. So keep that in mind. In terms of news, tomorrow we got a big report coming out. It's called the Consumer Price Index. What I look for is the CPIU, which is the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, including energy, including food, transportation, everything that involves you pulling out your wallet and paying for it. Our last CPI report, we had a 2.97% inflation rate. In the previous month, on August 10th, it actually went up to 3.2%. So the big thing for us to keep in mind is if we see that CPIU report come out and it shows an increase, most likely you're going to start seeing rates start trending upwards as we get closer to the Fed meeting, which should be the 19th and the 20th of this month. And that is something to keep in mind. But hey, if we're under 3.2%, even if it's 3.18%, there's a strong likelihood we see a rate hike pause for this month. Who knows? At the end of the day, we're going to be in a position where we are under the scrutiny of our Fed Chair Jerome Powell. So all we know is lenders will typically, if they hear the CPI report comes out before the Fed meetings typically. So if the CPI report comes out before and then our inflation rate goes up, lenders will do what's called baking it into their pricing. And that means that they're anticipating that he is going to increase the federal funds rate from right now we're at 5.5. So he could do another quarter, which would affect all lender pricing. So what they do is they slowly trickle it up to that date. So it's not like a big shock to the market, because lenders don't want to be adjusting their prices by 0.5% within a 1-day period. They want to be able to ease the pain, if you will. I don't think they're going to stop. That's my speculation. I don't think they're going to stop. Maybe they're going to pause for the month and reevaluate the CPI report and see if the rates still could be affecting inflation enough to where if we continue increasing those rates, he might dictate the fact that might help more to be able to bring inflation down. So keep that in mind. For everyone wondering when rates are going down, there is no set date yet, because right now it's a little bit odd in terms of what's being reported and what is being communicated. Because what's being communicated is that we want to get down to 2% inflation. I don't know about you, but things are still expensive. Gas prices are still over $5 a gallon in California, which is insane. And it's just, savings are dwindling. The CEO of JP Morgan actually announced in an article that he actually suspects that by the end of this year, the pandemic savings, which is a fancy way of saying, remember that inflation money we got, the stimulus checks that we got, also home appreciation. So a lot of people took cash out of their properties during that time. So people had a lot of cash in that time, and there was a lot of deferred mortgages. So people didn't have to pay their mortgage for a certain period of time, but that has stopped. Student loan payments have just restarted. Savings are starting to dwindle. And again, also if unemployment continues to go up, we will see what happens to the real estate market. But I don't know about you, the biggest reason why we have supply issues in the past 1.5 years, 2 years, 3 years is because people have low rates. They don't want to get rid of it. But guess what? If they don't have savings, they sell everything that they have. Guess what's left? Their real estate. So we'll see how this happens over time. These are all speculations based off of economic data. Also, folks that have been in the economic sphere for a long, long time. The CEO of JP Morgan, when he opens his mouth, people listen. So we'll just have to see. But that's why you got to follow along with me so you can get the right info so you can make an informed decision on your end, right? Moving on to the topic of today, it's very, very interesting because I was reading and also watching a few videos about what's going on right now is that Robert Kiyosaki is throwing some big accusations based on Airbnb, VRBO, and he thinks that that's going to cause a real estate crash. And it's interesting. So it got my brain percolating as to what he meant by that. And the reason why he started to feel that way is because of the big ban that's happening in New York City with Airbnb, VRB, as short-term rentals in general. If you live in our area, South Lake Tahoe, Tahoe in general actually has also done this as well, no short-term rentals. And so specifically what's going on with New York City is, for one, the question that I have is, will short-term rental restrictions spread to other cities? And could that potentially increase supply in real estate? Well, let's break it down, figure out what we're talking about, and then we can answer those questions. So according to the New York City Office of Special Enforcement, which is it's newyorkcity.gov, it's pretty much their ordinance on what the new short-term rental ordinance is. And essentially what they're doing is enforcing a host registration law to eliminate illegal, that's what they call it, short-term rentals. Law was passed in 2022, but just recently been enforced September 5th of this month. So things are going down. So the question is, who is eligible for a short-term rental? Well, there's two sides of the coin. So short-term rentals are allowed, but not really. And here's the reason why. You have to live in that unit, and you can only have a max amount of occupants of two people 2 paying customers at a time. That allows you to be able to have a short-term rental, which is considered to be under 30 days being rented. So anything below 30 days and below is considered a short-term rental. Whereas if you own an investment property or say an apartment units or multiple units in general, but you don't live in that property, guess what? Your Airbnb, your VRBO, you can't do it. You have to do more than 30 days. That's crazy. So what's really, really wild is the fact that they're expected for just Airbnb alone that they're going to lose about 10,000 Airbnb listings. For me, the question is, how is this going to affect the real estate market? But there's got to be a few steps that need to take in effect first. For one, if we have an investment property and we figure out we're in New York City and we just aren't eligible for short-term rental because you don't live in the property, you're in a position to where you have to turn it into a long-term rental, which is a lot more difficult. And let's just say 10,000 Airbnbs. That's a lot of Airbnbs. That doesn't even factor in VRBO. So that could cause an issue with flooding the rental market in terms of rates. When that happens, that means that prices of that goes down. The big thing that's been in the last few years, like TikTok, Instagram, has been like Airbnbs, how you can make money as Airbnb, like you can make really good money, which you can. However, with this ordinance involved, not so much, because you're not getting that $200 a night type of rental, which is really, really good. Now you have to set it from a perspective of a month to month, which is not the same. You're completely eliminating the vacation unless you got a family that's staying for over a month for a vacation, which is really rare. Most people take, on average, like 5 days to 2 weeks on vacation. So it's not even really going to hit that market. The question is, to me, is like, what if this spreads to other cities? And I think that's where Robert Kiyosaki is kind of getting the idea from, because I tend to lean in his favor here. Because if we're in a position to where if you have an investment property, which that's most people that have Airbnbs, if it spreads to say like Austin or Sacramento or Los Angeles, for instance, that means that there's going to be an influx of rentals. And the new investors that just got in, they may have a higher interest rate, a higher mortgage. That means they have to cover more profit in order to have any sort of cash flow and margin. If you have a higher supply, that means you kind of bring the renters back on their leverage to be able to negotiate a little bit more. The way I see it is the people that got into Airbnb the most recently, the younger investors who got into it, they have a higher mortgage payment and they need to be able to cover that. How long can they hold on with their current savings? How much do they put down? Are they able to even extract cash? But if they do extract cash, that means they have a higher mortgage payment. So it's probably going to start by turning them into long-term rentals. If they're not getting bites or if they're not cash flowing, how long does it take before they say, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to sell my property? So I think that's where Robert Kiyosaki's come from. So if there's a spread across the nation and cities and stuff like that, these kind of ordinance, I think it definitely could affect the real estate market, but I can see this as a positive. I don't know about you, Robert. Rentals are expensive. It's very expensive right now to rent a home, let alone buy a home. Buying a home is ridiculous. If there is a position to where it sucks for it's like there's two sides of the coin. Like you want to be able to be an entrepreneur and make really, really good money as a Airbnb or VRBO host, and you got in with the right intentions, but you also have to, it's got to make sense on a business perspective. So if you're not cash flowing and your city is against you in order to be able to cash flow enough, what are you going to do? I might as well just cash out, maybe just buy a bigger house so you can have Airbnb at your bigger house for yourself. It's interesting to see. So I think it could help renters, and it could help increase our supply. But again, it's all speculative based on the fact that it could be possible it spreads to other cities in the United States. But again, I think that's where Robert's coming from. So I'm definitely going to follow this along on the podcast because it's very, very fascinating. So something needs to give, whether it be unemployment, whether it be excess savings dwindling, whether it be Airbnb, short-term rentals, maybe that's going to increase supply. Either way, we all know that there's going to be an adjustment. I do not think that our market is set for a crash per se. It doesn't move that quickly, mainly because of the mortgages that we secure our real estate with, right? We have 30-year fixed mortgages that we literally have to make sure that you, on an income basis, can qualify. Because back in '08, previous to that, I could be like, hey, Robert, How much do you make as a manager at McDonald's? You can tell me 10 grand. I could put that on an application, ready to go. Boom, boom. You have a house. You can do back then you could do 100% loan. Let's just say you're buying $1 million home. I could do $1 million loan to match you. And whatever it took was the income that I needed to put on the application was called stated income, or NINA loans, no income, no assets. It was crazy. So I don't think things will change quickly, but I think we are in a position where I think things are going to have to adjust. Something has got to move in the other direction, because at the rate that we're at, like, my generation is not going to be able to buy, and that just sucks. The interesting thing that I've been talking about is just like, I've been just talking to parents in general lately, and it's just everyone's just concerned, like, my kid is just busting his ass and he just seems like he cannot get ahead. And I hate to hear that. It's tough to hear, because like, I understand it from a housing expense perspective on the mortgage side. And on the rental side, here's a crazy statistic. 16% of the US population has the ability to buy a home right now. And that's not even factoring the people that already own a home. We just have to keep focusing on watching this podcast. I'll keep you guys in the loop. And I'm always going to preach the fact that the best time to buy real estate is when you are financially and mentally ready to buy, because there are people, I'm working with a few people right now that have been able to get some gritty, awesome deals. They're usually over the $600,000 range. But it doesn't always have to be. So if you're curious about where you stand, talk to someone. And like, what's really cool is you can do things like 2-1 buy downs, which helps you be able to get an interest rate that's going to be, let's say today's rate's 7.5. Your first year is going to be 5.5. The second year is going to be 6.5. And then if you don't refinance within that time, it goes right back to 7.5. But the cool thing is you didn't pay a dime of that. The seller did. And if you did refinance, the remaining balance goes right back to the balance. Maybe we talked about this in the past, but the one thing I will say is that I believe in real estate. I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm not going to tell you that it's like, we're going to see crazy appreciation. It's possible, but for me, just the vibe, just everything that I am seeing, something has got to give in some regard, whether it be something that's going to be just on the consumer side, not real estate side, because we haven't seen rates this low. So we'll see how long that can last. Worst case scenario, unemployment goes sky high. And we're in a position where excess savings are dwindled as well. So people have to sell, increasing supply, price adjustments have to be made, right? We got to take it day by day. I had a reel come out like a couple weeks ago. It's like, it's a quarter mile at a time right now. Take it day by day, because at the end of the day, all we got to do is look at the facts we got right now, work with them, and make an informed decision. Until then, comment anything down below that you want me to cover, because I am no BSer. It's in my Instagram bio. It's no bullshit, just facts. But again, the best person to talk to if you are considering buying real estate is talk to your loan officer and talk to your agent, because at the end of the day, I'll say it once, I'll say it twice, and I'll say it again. When you're mentally and financially ready to buy is the best time to buy. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll catch you in the next one.